everyone, it's Jordan and welcome to This Month I Watched. This is your November 2020 edition. It's also the first edition, so I want to quickly establish some ground rules. I will be going through my Letterboxd log list in each of these videos for that month and basically just talking briefly on each film. I'll be saying what rating I gave for it. I'll be saying obviously a few words on some of them. If it's a movie I've already covered on the channel, I'm going to leave a card to that video rather than talk about it again here because it's just taking up video time when it doesn't have to be as long. There's also going to be some movies that I will outright say I don't want to talk too much on because there are some that are in the works to be used in future videos. Again, I don't want to give my thoughts out too early on them. So before I jump into it, I'll be rating every movie out of 5 stars. Real quick, I'm going to place an extract from the unlisted video in the This Month I Watched playlist so that you get an idea of my justifications behind each rankings because I feel like we're going to need them. I want to start off by saying that as much as people dislike this method of reviewing films, I tend to rate them based purely on enjoyment rather than the quality. If you look through my letterbox and see me ranking films on quality, you're not really getting a good idea of what I thought personally of the film. I'm not trying to be some sort of film critic where I'm talking about film objectively and trying to put it across as if it's, one method of thinking. I am someone that just really likes film, and there's going to be films that aren't too great in quality, but I still gave them really high ratings because I enjoy the hell out of them. For example, there's no denying there's a hell of a lot of quality in Zack Snyder's Justice League. It looks great visually and there's a lot of strong aspects with it, but I didn't like the film, so I'm not going to go and give it a high rating. So what I will do is go through each rating that I will be giving to films and I will give an example with each one to let you know a bit more about my film taste in this alone. A half star is something that I would give to a film that I believe is the lowest of the low. And this is a film that I've likely only seen once and I'm never ever going to watch again. Moving up to 1 star, this is a really bad film. I do not like this film. It's like I hate this movie, but I wouldn't quite deem it unwatchable because at a very stretched push, this could be fun to watch just for the sheer awfulness of it. 1.5 stars, this movie is not good. It's quite a pretty bad one. I don't like it all that much, but again, I wouldn't not rewatch it just to laugh at it. I would really describe it as distaste for a film, but nowhere near on the same level as a 1 star. 2 star pushes us out from bad movie territory into plain old boring. This movie is a meh. I'm unlikely to ever really go back to it in a serious manner. It's just so inoffensive that I can't really criticise it for anything, but at the same time there's nothing that I like about it. Slightly ahead of that, a 2.5 star means that again, it was a pretty meh movie. But this time instead of being dull and more closer to being on the negative side, it was pretty average. It was fine. Now 3 stars is the baseline that every movie needs to hit. This is a good movie. I like 3-star movies. 3.5 stars? Well, that's even better. I really like this movie. And I mean, really like this one. 4 stars. The movie is great and I love it. 4.5 stars. It's close to being top of the crop, but something is missing from it. But despite that, it's a movie that I love wholeheartedly. And we conclude on 5 stars. Now, I can be pretty generous with 5 stars in that I give them out a little too much, but more often than not I tend to be quick in bumping it down if I feel like I've made a mistake. 5 stars are my favourite movies, or my absolute go-tos if I'm looking for 2 hours of pure excitement and happiness. So those are the ratings. Hopefully now you understand them. You can always obviously come back to this video if you forget them. But enjoy the playlist, enjoy seeing what I'm watching every month, and yeah, au revoir. First film of the month came on November 2nd when I watched Free Guy. This was my 3rd watch of this movie, and I know from my footprint online that I have talked enough on this movie for you to know that I kinda love it. Won't say too much on it here anymore because I did have a review on the channel at one point and it was one of my more viewed ones, so I assume that most of you know my thoughts. That and it may be getting worked on in a future video, but still, I gave it 5 stars. I also watched Knives Out again on the same day, and I think this is my 4th or 5th rewatch of this movie by now. I am a very big fan, and again I can't say too much on it because it is planned for in a future video, but I will say that I gave it 4.5 stars. Moving on to November 3rd, I may or may not have watched Free Guy again. November 4th, I revisited the Kick-Ass movies. I watched both of them, and I enjoyed both of them. The first one continues to be one of my favourite comic book movies ever made, and the second one, it's a fun time. Anyway, Kick-Ass I gave a 5 star, Kick-Ass 2 I gave 3.5. November 5th, I went to see Eternals in cinema. This was a cinema watch. I will highlight each cinema watch that I have in a month in these videos. We all know what I thought about Eternals, don't want to think about it too much more, so let's just move on from there. There is a video in the top right hand corner if you want to go and watch that if you haven't already. People are going to disagree. Didn't watch anything on the 6th, but on the 7th I watched Kingsman: The Secret Service. I actually really like this one. This is a solid movie and it's the one that kind of made me realise I maybe want Matthew Vaughn to direct a Marvel movie. I gave it a 4 stars, think it's a solid movie. Moving Moving swiftly on, I watched Army of the Dead. I think this is probably my favourite Zack Snyder film, but at the same time, still wasn't anything special. I gave it a 6 stars, I had fun with it, I'm probably never going to watch it again though. The 8th, I watched Army of Thieves, and only Zack Snyder could let someone else make a film in his universe and that other film be better. Army of Thieves I gave a 4 star, I loved a lot of it, I loved the characters, I liked the story, and I thought it was done pretty well in general. The 10th, 5 days after my first Eternals viewing, I went to watch Eternals again, a second cinema visit, and still didn't really change much. Did try to give it the benefit of a doubt and bump it up to a 3, but I was really quick in moving it back down to a 2.5, I just wasn't huge on it. The 11th, Easy A. It was the first time in ages that I'd watched this movie, I don't know how many times I've seen it. I gave it a 9 or a 4.5, I really like this one. Emma Stone's great, I think Stanley Tucci's great, I think everyone in that film is good, story is great, you should definitely watch it if you can. It's on Netflix in the UK, I don't know about anywhere else. 12 saw me see Kingsman Golden Circle for the first time. I had not seen this one before. I thought it was fun, I had some fun with it. I didn't like it anywhere near as much as the first one, I gave this one a 6. Missed out with quite a few days, but on the 15th I watched Moana for the first time, and gotta be honest, I had a lot of fun with this one as well. I still only gave it a 6 stars, I probably am not going to watch it again, but I am glad that I have saw it. 16th, yeah, another first watch. I watched Cheaper by the Dozen the first time. Now, not the original, I'm talking about the remakes with Steve Martin, because then the day after that, I also watched Cheaper by the Dozen 2. You know, I really like these movies. I don't think they're masterpieces or anything, but I did have a lot of fun with them and I would consider going back to them. I gave Cheaper by the Dozen 1 a 3.5 out of 5, and I gave Cheaper by the Dozen 2 a 3 out of 5. Now, along with Cheaper by the Dozen 2, on the 17th I also watched Chronicle, and gonna be honest, I've seen a lot of hype for this movie before, so I was excited going into it. It just wasn't really for me. It was a 2.5 star at best. On the 18th, I watched Lilo and Stitch for the first time in quite a while. This one's one of my favourite Disney movies. My mum has a bit of an obsession with this one. Can't say too much on it because of the fact that it does have a video coming. I don't know if I've confirmed that yet. I might need to do that. Check Twitter shortly after you see this video. On the 18th I also watched the sequel, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, the one that my mum refuses to watch because of the fact that she's scared to watch Stitch die at the end, even though he does come back to life. Gave Lilo and Stitch a 5 star, Lilo and Stitch 2 was a 3.5. The Guilty, Jake Gyllenhaal. Quite a topical thing considering what happened with Taylor Swift. I'm not going to get into that, all I'm going to say is I do not like Taylor Swift fans. I say that as a Taylor Swift fan. But anyway, The Guilty, Jake Gyllenhaal was really good in this one. I really enjoyed it. Have not seen the original and I'm going to have to watch that one. But I gave this one a 3.5 stars, I did enjoy it. That was on the 19th, and also on the 19th, a bit of an obsession began. Tick Tick Boom, starring Andrew Garfield, was released on Netflix, and I watched it, and I loved it, and I gave it a 5 star. Also on the 19th, I watched Tick Tick Boom, again, and I loved it, and I gave it a 5 star. Moving on to the 20th, I watched Tick Tick Boom, and in the same on the 21st, I watched Tick Tick Boom. Promise I'm not obsessed with it or addicted or anything like that. It's just a really good movie and you should watch it. As we expected, all those are 5 stars, but that does mean that we move on to a franchise that I then watched. Along with my 4th viewing of Tick Tick Boom, on the 21st I watched Ghostbusters for the first time and I really enjoyed it. If I'm being real, I'm looking at my 3.5 star rating and I'm thinking I might have been a little harsh on this. I'm not going to revisit it right away, but I can see it being bumped up a little bit next time I watch it. 22nd saw Ghostbusters 2, and like the number of the sequel, it got a 2. I wasn't huge on this, I wasn't really all that interested throughout the story, it didn't really grab me all that much, and I feel like if I'd grown up with these films I'd probably be thinking a lot different of it. 23rd, I moved away from the franchise briefly to watch The Harder They Fall on Netflix, and I don't really like Western movies all that often, but I think this was a solid one. I gave it 3.5 stars, and yeah, I enjoyed it. The 24th was one of the more controversial film days, as I watched Ghostbusters 2016, a film that was panned from every angle when it was first released, and I didn't think it was awful. I gave it 2.5. I didn't think it was that awful. Didn't think it was amazing, but there was more times where I liked it than more times where I thought this is downright dreadful. The 25th, I then went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife in my 3rd cinema visit of the month. I gave it a 1.5 and we're going to move on. I did not like Ghostbusters Afterlife in the sense that it resurrected a dead actor using CGI. And people are telling me that it's overreactionary, but the same people then don't have a way to respond when I ask them how they'd feel if they kept Stan Lee alive using CGI. I just think it's kind of disrespectful the way that it was done. It didn't feel to me like that was the only way it could have been done. I feel like if they had cut off and not shown the head at all, even just shown the shot with the arm, holding the granddaughter's arm and helping her, I feel like that would have hit home just as hard. But no, they had to show it because the 3rd act of that film was plagued so badly by nostalgia I could barely see anything else. 26th, I had to remind myself that not all movies can be as pandering as that one, and so I decided to log on to Netflix and I watched Tick Tick Boom for the 5th time this month. 27th, I watched the Lego Batman movie for the first time, and it was a really fun time. It's probably my favourite Batman movie already. Probably going to change when the Batman comes out next year, but we'll see. I gave the Lego Batman movie a 4-star rating. 27th also saw the start of me watching my final franchise of the month, which was the Harry Potter franchise. On that day I started off with the Philosopher's Stone, obviously year 1, and it was pretty good. It's probably just as good as I remember it being, because I've only ever seen the first 5 Harry Potter films as of recording this moment. Gave it 3.5, I think it's a good one. On the 28th I watched Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and it was just as good as I remember. I gave this one a solid 4-star rating. I think it's great. Still on the 28th I watched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and again, this was a really fucking good one. This one was 5 stars. This was so much better than I remember it being. Just want to note quickly that from this point on, I've recorded a lot of these in bulk on the 28th actually, but from this point on and then for the future monthly episodes, it's going to be off the cuff. I'm just going to be, the setup's going to vary all the time obviously, because I'm just going to film a bit daily as I watch the films. So yeah, hopefully it'll add a bit more fluidity. You'll see a bit more with the channel. You'll see a bit more like variation with the different setups and stuff. So yeah, let's just move on. Finishing off with our final 3 films of the month, obviously meaning that we didn't finish the Harry Potter series before the end of November. On the 29th, I watched Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I really liked it. Now this one was my favourite, just from memory, from what I remember watching it. I'm not quite sure it's there anymore. I still gave it a 5-star rating, but I think that Prisoner of Azkaban has just about kept itself ahead. Also on the 29th, I watched Year 5, Order of the Phoenix, and this is one that I actually didn't think I liked that much from memory, and this is also the last one that I've seen. Everything after this was a new viewing. This one was really fucking good. I don't know if that's just because of how little I thought of it before, but this was a solid movie. And so today, the day of recording this, November 30th, the final day of the month, and which means the final film of last month, I watched episode 1. We watched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and this was the first viewing of a Harry Potter film that I've had. This one didn't disappoint. It's another solid movie, and it's another 8 out of 10, or 4 stars. Just really quick interjecting here. Obviously, I will not be covering Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 on the YouTube thing until January, when I uploaded December last month I watched. However, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's on screen here. I'm no doubt going to tweet stuff about it there if you're at all interested in seeing my thoughts beforehand. Just a suggestion, don't have to follow up on it, it's just there if you want it. And so that concludes episode 1 of last month I watched, but let me know what films you've been watching this month. What's been your favourite that you've seen? Also feel free to get down in the comments and let me know your thoughts about my thoughts on these movies. You can also leave a like if you enjoyed, and feel free to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes and future video essays that I've got coming your way. I don't think you're going to want to miss them. Obviously with the coming month being December, that means it's festive period if you can tell by the jumper that I'm wearing. Which means that for the last month I watched of December, we're going to be having a lot of Christmas movies, although hopefully not too many, as a lot of them just aren't really that good. But anyway, that's been everything from me. I've been Jordan, I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in the next one.